We had one heck of a night of fight action at PFL Hollywood, the World Tournament Finals. And the main event lived up to the hype, every bit of it, as we crowned Fabian Edwards as the middleweight tournament final winner following an epic head kick. 3 years to the date that brother Leon Edwards landed that same head kick across the dome of Kamaru Usman to capture the UFC welterweight strap. It was 3 years to the date that day, which was Thursday, this past Thursday. Unbelievable, unbelievable finish. Fabian Edwards captures the middleweight strap, wins the final, beats Dalton Rasta with an epic, epic head kick KO. Is this headshot dead part two, or does he have another name for it? Either way, it was an incredible, incredible performance by Edwards. He dealt with some adversity in this fight. He was taken down by Rasta. Rasta was really, really controlling the action the first 2 rounds. Looked hella good. I mean, he was pushing him against the cage, multiple takedowns. flat out, Rasta had won the first 2 rounds. And even in that situation, Edwards dealt with a left shoulder injury at some point, maybe from one of the takedowns, but he hurt his left shoulder and goes back to the corner and they tells his corner, and they're like, F your shoulder, man. And he's like, okay, F my shoulder. And, you're here to win, obviously, and you need to leave it all out there in the cage. And you could see, I mean, he's kind of laboring with the left shoulder, but then he saw something on film that he mentioned in the post-fight presser. He mentions he saw that Rasta would dip his right, like he would dip this way, similar to what Kamaru Usman did against Leon Edwards. And he paws out with the right, comes out down low, and right when his hand comes down, the head kick lands square across the jaw and puts Rasta out. And Edwards gets the finish in the 3rd round. With a bum shoulder, that was probably the only way that Edwards could win this fight, and he found a way to get it done. Place went absolutely crazy. A big time reaction from the Hard Rock fans. And gotta say, salute to Fabian Edwards, because to land that type of head kick after your shoulder's busted and you know that there aren't a whole lot of options and you're being controlled with wrestling in the first 2 rounds, a big time comeback. Obviously his corner went crazy, and we already know who his next fight will be. His next fight will be against Costello, the Spaniard Van Steenis, and that's going to be for the PFL strap. So we already know that's the next fight. And I tell you what, PFL made some changes this year. They switched to this world tournament format. And while they do have champions, they also create contenders with this format, which I do happen to like. The production of the event. This was my first time attending a PFL event. It's top-notch production. Was very impressed by everything. And you're going to have some great fights that come out of this world tournament format. You're going to have new fighters that are going to come on the scene that are being developed within the PFL, which I think is really, really great for the PFL. PFL has the opportunity to create its own brand and seemingly get away from the bring over the 40-something-year-old UFC fighter who's long in the tooth only to come in and get beaten up by somebody in the PFL. Realistically, and that seemingly what's happened when they would take former UFC fighters into the PFL. PFL is looking more based on what Jonathan Coachman, the spokesman for PFL, said after the fight. He was talking about development of fighters within the PFL. And I think that's vitally important, because it's what made Bellator strong when, they had some really good fighters, and even Strikeforce had some really good fighters. I understand you're always going to be compared to the UFC, but when you produce a card like they produced this past Thursday, it's great for the organization. It's great for mixed martial arts and combat sports across the board. So yeah, Fabian Edwards comes away with the huge head kick knockout. I say we call it kill shot dead because that was a kill shot right there. And he got the job done. I will say this after the fight in the press conference, media members were trying to ask Leon Edwards, who's not in the fight but was standing off to my left eating, um, and asking him questions. And I gotta tell you, this is what I loved. Leon Edwards said, "Yo, this is his night, man. You don't gotta ask me any questions." And I think it's really important that people understand that just because you have a relative who fights also and who had whatever, focus on the guy who just had the big knockout, the big win, because he is the person you should be talking to. And Leon Edwards kept telling media, "Yo, no, he's the guy to talk to." So I salute him for that. You know, but yeah, what a performance by Fabian Edwards. I tell you what, we're going to see Dalton Rasta again. I was impressed the 2 rounds that I saw of him. Very impressed by him as well. Going into the heavyweight final, Oleg Popov beats Alexander Romanov via split decision. This fight was okay. It was a lot of big guys, grappling, hand holding. They threw punches, but a lot of it was in tight, in close. What there wasn't a whole lot of huge action in this fight, but Popov I thought won the fight, and he did get the decision. Then you have the light heavyweight final, and oh, by the way, after the fight, there's talk of Francis Ngannou and Oleg Popov, and Popov says Ngannou's got nothing for him. So maybe we get that fight. That'd be nice to see because we haven't seen Ngannou fight, but I think one time, and would love to see Ngannou, get in there because that was the whole point, right? You're actually going to fight, not just sit in the sidelines. Then we got the light heavyweight fight, which started off the main card. Sullivan Cauley and Antonio Carlos Jr. They put on a great fight. Both guys had some big action in the first round. Cauley drops Carlos. Carlos drops Cauley. When Cauley dropped Carlos, Carlos hit him with an up kick that busted him up, kind of pretty good. And then, round two is when Carlos Jr. comes away with the rear naked choke. Very emotional in victory. He's gone through a lot of injuries and situations, and he was very emotional after the win. He is a previous tournament winner, so he's back in the W column. As a 205er. Who is up next yet for Carlos Jr.? That remains to be seen, but he's obviously back in the win column and looking forward to seeing him fight in the future. There's some prospects that you should be taking a look at because there were some fighters that are obviously moving up the rankings for PFL. Impa Kasanya is a former champion, former tournament winner, and he got the job done round 3 finish over Andrew Sanchez. So you know about him. But specifically, there were two that really stepped up with big performances. And one is Lazaro Deron. He finished with a third round KO with 54 seconds left in the fight. Big time finish over Bryce Meredith. Two guys that were undefeated. Meredith was 7-0. Deron was 8-0-1. And Deron got the job done. He wants in next year's world tournament. Cuban fighter, fighting at 135. Very, very impressed by him. It's funny. You see them from the cage. You've seen them from when you're sitting back and you walk in. You're like, man, I'm way bigger than that guy. But no, I mean, big time Cuban crowd there was up, and when he finished that fight, place went berserk. So Deron is someone to definitely take a look at and watch out for in the future. This is what I'm talking about. We're talking about PFL developing some fighters within their own organization, not pulling fighters from other organizations. If they can develop fighters internally, honestly, sorry, but similarly to how Bellator did in the past, you had the Pitbull brothers, you had guys that were being developed within Bellator. PFL now obviously absorbed, purchased Bellator, and it's one organization now. But PFL has the ability to develop for some fighters. I think that's going to make them a very formidable competition for the UFC. And even so, just some more great fights because we want to see great fights. Alexi Pergande, another one there, undefeated fighter. He had a big time performance, big finish, round 1 with an anaconda choke. He got the job done in his fight rather quickly, and he is currently sitting at 7-0. So he is one at the lightweight division. They have him here in the showcase at 145, but he has here listed he's a lightweight. His name is Alexei Russian DNA Pergandi, and he's an American. So that's real interesting. But nonetheless, he is someone to watch out for. So I'd be on the lookout for Deron and Pergandi in the future. as you're learning more and more about PFL. One thing that Jonathan Coachman did say in the post-fight press conference was, we want more fights. We want to see more great fights. I don't want to see washed up old guys fighting each other. Like, realistically, not in MMA. I don't want to see a guy that can't stop a takedown going from UFC to PFL and thinking that he's going to go into the PFL and win. We've seen too many times these guys in the UFC go over to PFL and get smacked up because they're long in the tooth. They're well past their prime. They can't stop a takedown. They can't stop this. They can't stop that. Development from within is critical for the PFL to have long-term success. Remember, they're only 7 years in. What was happening 7 years into the UFC? It's about to go under. So you have a lot of good backing from ESPN with the PFL. These 3 fights are on free TV for everyone to see. And the Carlos fight delivered. The Edwards fight delivered. The middle fight, it wasn't that great, not to me. But overall, the overall card delivered at a high level. So be sure to check out PFL. We're going to be covering a lot more PFL stuff and giving you our feedback on PFL fights, previews, etc. For all of your PFL action and combat sports, information, please come right over here to Combat Corner Fight Network and our main channel, Come On Now, the podcast. So again, if you haven't subscribed to Come On Now, the podcast, our main channel, that is the name, Come On Now, the podcast on YouTube. And of course, here, Combat Corner Fight Network, we have Combat Corner information on the main channel as well for fighter interviews. Working on hopefully get Fabian Edwards on here. We'd love to talk to him. We did talk to him briefly, and he is still down here in South Florida for a few more days before flying back home. Want to give him some chance to enjoy himself naturally, and hopefully we get him on here next couple of weeks. But I appreciate y'all. Hit that like button. I appreciate the PFL's hospitality. Thank you for credentialing us for this event, and we look forward to seeing a lot more PFL events in person. Once again, get all your combat sports information right here on Combat Corner. Probably Come On Now, the podcast. Come on now.
Up and down through the blood and the sweat. Guarantee you can know I'm a threat. Up and down through the blood and the sweat. And I ain't close to being